So, mud flood, everybody. And what do we think about the mud flood? Well, it deposited mud everywhere, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet deep. But your standard flood, your flood that happens every year in a city here or there. We've seen it in Australia a few years ago. The city was covered in water, and then it dissipates, and then you brush the place out and it's gone. And it happens in Europe, the Danube floods, the Rhine floods, the cities get flooded, they clear them out when the water dissipates. But mud flood leaves mud, 30, 40 feet of mud. And now we're looking at a flood here in 1947. And these things look like flood defenses, okay? They look like the Dutch dikes, as they call them, which are stars, the edge of the star structures. Yep. So in this 1947 flood, which was Lincolnshire, 20 square miles underwater, it says. Sandbags, everything, fen landforms, everything gets wrecked. But let's have a little bit of a closer look at what happened. And this is documented 1947. But take a look at this terrain, this whole terrain around here. And this does look like a flood defense, also looks like the edge of a star structure and the Dutch dikes that give way. But the entire land around here is kind of flat. I have looked at some other places where you have it kind of like flowing a little bit. And I remember, we all remember Lance Renard and Lance Renard's Haphazard channel. And one day he had a video out and he had a book out where someone was writing about eyewitness to the mud flood. And the eyewitness account, the eyewitness was saying that the land was flowing like waves of the ocean. That was back at the time I was doing French mud flood videos and looking at things that I thought were crests of mud flood waves where the mud just stopped dead and you were at a cliff. But now we are out here in Lincolnshire. And what are they finding 30 feet down in under the mud? Only tanks from World War II. So if tanks from World War II are down there 30 feet under the mud and they're digging them up and digging them out, those tanks were at ground level. So whatever that ground level was, whatever else was at ground level is buried. Nobody knows. Let's bring it a little bit further. So what they dug up was one of these things. It's a troop-carrying landing craft on tank tracks, amphibious floats, apparently used to cross the Rhine, not really so much to cross the channel, but to get across the Rhine into Germany. They use these things, and they're digging them up out of fields in Lincolnshire, and they're buried in 30 feet of mud. Yeah, and this is the thing that they dug up. And in a moment, I'm going to show you a video of them digging it up. So this is it, out in the middle of this field. Big crane, big bucket on it, digging mud out of this thing. How did it get 30 feet under here? Where did all this mud come from? How did it happen in 1947 and nobody knows about it? What kind of mud flood are we looking at? Mud flood from this period in time is unheard of. So, can mud flood happen right around the corner from you and you haven't got a clue what happened? I mean, like, I've gone through so much stuff. You've all been through a lot of stuff. We've been through all the cities of the world, all the fires of the world, all the destroyed cities of the world. And go back to 1980 in the Bronx. The Bronx got destroyed in the 1970s and 1980s. And at the end of it all, it looked like freaking Hiroshima. People 5 miles up the road in Manhattan hadn't a clue what was going on. But they got away with it. They got away with it. How did they get away with this? If that tank is 30 feet down at ground level and there's 30 feet of mud everywhere, all over the place, and this land up here is not level, it's flowing up and away, then they're able to pull shit off right under our bloody noses while we were asleep. Did it happen after the war? Did it happen during the war? During the war is a good time because during the war, everybody's looking over in this direction. You can do what you want over here. Nobody's going to see it. Just like all the shit that they got up to in World War I when everyone's looking over there. They're over here creating Disneyland dream parks out of the pyramids and Baalbek and the rest of Egypt. And the world doesn't know what's going on, and they show up afterwards and they believe it. Oh, look at this. Now, this is questionable. So what do you all think? It can't be anything other than a mud flood because it's mud. It's 30 feet thick and stuff made 75 years ago was buried down in it. This land is empty. A few structures here and there, they're new. What was down below? And here we have, looks like a canal in as well. So, there's your mud flood. Can happen to you anywhere. You wouldn't even know what's going on. And it happened there. I wonder, is it a bit like Tartaria, Siberia? And there's a load of Lincolnshire lads and lassies also buried down in there under there in their cozy little houses that we ain't going to see unless we bring ground penetrating radar and start searching the whole area. Something happened wartime. Buried tanks, 30 feet of mud. Yeah. So a nice enigma for you all to figure out.